What up, what up, what up? This Ibn Webb, Quran is some here, official thanks thing I got going on right at this moment. Eugene Ben Robinson, Irvington's own, athlete, coach, educator, great man. I'm lucky, to get him on here. I've been trying for some time here. He was able to carve out some time for me. And I'm just looking forward to just hearing a little bit about his walk, his journey here. So we're gonna get to it. Hold tight. All right, now, peace. Thank you for doing this. I mean, I know I've been trying to flag you down here. So just thank you for
Yeah,
taking
man, for
a
some
couple of
time,
minutes here.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So no, I appreciate you taking a few minutes, out your day here. And again, just a little bit about it. Like I said, something I've done probably about going on 3 years here. Just something I wanted to do all around, in particular when I narrowed down to like Essex County, whether it's someone playing sports or just doing something. I grew up in Orange. I grew up
Okay.
in Orange, so just having that connection still with everybody back at home. I'm in Connecticut these days, but my whole crew, everybody's still back at the crib.
Yeah,
So this is my way of just wanting to do this and just people names that I've heard of or people I actually know here. So that's the gist of it, the kind of the Cliff Note version of how come I'm doing it. So and like I said, your name is thrown around, has been thrown around, and then luckily I was able to get your number and reach out. So we just gonna rock from there. That works.
yeah, that's perfect.
All right, cool, cool. So just a little bit about yourself here. Where'd you grow up at?
Irvington, man. I went to high school at Irvington, played ball in Irvington. We won a state championship there.
Hmm.
I was part of the two teams, the first two teams to win 4 county championships in a row. Went on to play at Felician College. Came back home and I was actually the head coach at Irvington for 14 years. So,
Nah, good stuff here. And before we just kind of jump into some of that here, growing up, what got you into sports here? What was the big draw as far as playing
the
sports?
main thing I believe, looking back on, I just felt like my mom got me and my two brothers involved in sports. Um, what did I do here? Oh, because just to stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
And just so happened that we all were pretty good in sports. I was a good football and baseball player as well. But I took a love to basketball and decided to play college basketball. Yep.
Okay. Now, as far as did you play in any leagues or anything growing up? The AAU circuit, I know it was
Oh
pretty
yeah,
deep back then.
for sure. You know, back when we grew up, the Irvington Powell, which is now the Chris Gatlin Center, was
Hmm.
the hotbed for everybody. Irvington and the surrounding areas, we had very good leagues there. So I grew up. I started playing there. Went on to play middle school basketball in Irvington, and later became the North Rams. Played for the North Rams AU program with Brian Crawford.
With being them, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Now, Everton Power, that's the spot. That's right off the Parkway, if I believe.
Yeah, that's on Union
Yeah,
Avenue.
right
So
on the
it's
corner, right on
now.
the corner there.
Yep, it's called the Chris Gatlin Center now.
Okay, okay. And there was no doubt in your mind as far as when it was all said and done, Irvington High was where you was headed. I mean, I know
Oh yeah, well
nowadays you get pulled.
oh yeah, you get pulled in all directions nowadays. But when we were coming up, it was either St. Anthony's or your local public, right?
Okay.
And Elizabeth was a powerhouse too. And after my freshman year, I got approached to transfer to Elizabeth, but back then we didn't want to go anywhere. We wanted to beat those teams. So public school basketball was tough back then because you didn't have all these options. Right now, nowadays the talent is spread around, and sometimes public school basketball is not very good, to be honest,
Hmm.
because the players are so spread around. You got guys that sit at some of these basketball factories and maybe getting spot minutes, but if they play at a public school, they might can be all county if they're good. So it's just a different time, and it's hard to adjust when you got an old school mentality, like a lot of us who grew up in our era have. Where we just didn't think about teaming up or going. We just thought about playing for your local high school. That was it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Ask a question, and I never knew they changed Irvington. It's interesting you mentioned getting tapped on the shoulder by Elizabeth here. Chris Gatlin, he's from Irvington because I know he went to
Yeah,
Elizabeth
he's from
High.
He's from Irvington, but he went to Elizabeth. Luther Wright was from Irvington, but he went to Elizabeth. Isaac Morgan lived in Irvington
Oh,
and he went to Elizabeth.
mhm.
So it was, Irvington had some talent, man. And my group, the guys that I played with, we were good since middle school.
Yeah.
Right. And the 7th and 8th grade team, we might have lost one game in my 2 years playing middle school basketball. And we knew that if we all stayed together, we would win. And
Hmm.
that was kind of like our goal. Like we never really talked much about it. We just kind of knew. And it was never a thought of me not going to Irvington. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah. And once you got there from the door, was you playing varsity in all three sports?
Nah,
Or
nah. I
okay.
played I played varsity baseball and football as a freshman. I
Okay.
was the leading scorer on the JV team, JV basketball team as a freshman. But I actually played baseball, a very good baseball player. I started varsity from day one. We had a
Hmm.
very good American Legion team back then. And as a rising freshman, I started on the American Legion team where we played over 30 games in the summer. And as a freshman, I started at safety and I had a few starts at quarterback as a
Hmm.
freshman as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Now back then, how was it? Because I believe Watan Conference, correct?
Watchon Conference, yep.
Yeah. How competitive was that? I know it was the
Very
Elizabeth. The,
good. Yeah. Like so in football, Union and Elizabeth were ranked in the country. It wasn't the Boscos. It wasn't these Catholic. It was public school, right? So Union and Elizabeth were the powerhouses back then in football. Union was very good in baseball.
hmm
Elizabeth was good. Elizabeth was good in all sports back then.
Biggest school in Junior.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they were good in all sports. Yeah, Westfield and Cranford, like it was very competitive in baseball. Even Kearney was very good in baseball. Um, and then football, it was Union and Elizabeth. They had playing field. Right, the only Essex County schools in the Watson Conference was us, Northeast Side, and Shabazz.
Okay.
Everybody else was Union County.
Okay. How was that just being 13, 14-year-old starting DB for players you couldn't recall back then? I mean, were you ready to go? I mean, it was just football
Yeah,
for you?
believe it or not, I was good in football. I kind of came easy, but
Okay.
what really helped me, transition and and not, be overwhelmed was my older brother was a senior when I was a freshman, and he was my starting fullback, and he started at middle linebacker. So I was on the field with my brother, so I always felt comfortable. Like he made it easy
Hmm.
for me. And
Hmm.
everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of us played three sports. My brother started in baseball too. He
Hmm.
was a third baseman. I started at shortstop, and I pitched as a freshman. So the transition, it was easier for me because I was used to playing with older guys because of my older brother, and
Okay.
I just felt like I knew the guys on the team, and I'm like, man, I'm just as good as this dude. So if they could play ball, I never really thought about it. I never was overwhelmed with it. I just did
Hmm.
it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I really didn't think much about it.
Yeah.
Uh,
And team wise, throughout your years, at least for football, how we are as far as
we were
team
good.
wise.
We were good. My senior year, we were 5-4, which in
Okay.
today's world we would be in the playoffs. Right? We
Yeah.
you'll be in the playoffs at 5-4. We lost. I remember score. The only team that beat us up pretty good was Union. We lost to them 30-14, I believe. We lost to Elizabeth 20-12. We lost to Westfield 14-13, and we had one more loss in there, but they were all good teams. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So, but we lost to Linden. We lost to Linden in a close game. So those were our four losses, but we were 5-4. And the only game that we were really out of the game was Union. They kind of jumped out on us, and the game was pretty much even after a quarter and a half. But
Hmm.
we would we had a run at Irvington where we just had a lot of good athletes,
Yeah.
and we were just good. And for like the baseball team, we were in the top 20. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? We split with Seton Hall Prep and Coach Shepard, who was there for a long time. I hit my first home run against as a sophomore against
And
Seton Hall. Yeah.
in the whole
Yep.
Greater North tournament. That was a big deal. That
Yeah,
goes
the
also.
GNTs, yeah, man. We always lost in this. We lost in the semifinals in the GNTs a couple times. I believe one year Barringer was pretty good. They had the Maldonado kid, the lefty pitcher.
Hmm.
They went kind of deep in it. My eighth grade year, we lost in the Irvington lost in the finals to Glen Ridge.
Mm.
With Rob Kennedy, who was the basketball coach at Glen Ridge for a long time. So yeah, it was sports was everything back then because you had a neighborhood field because guys didn't go to Catholic.
Yeah.
Everybody went to their local public school.
Hmm. I found something out. Maybe you could clear this up 30 years later, football wise. Was there a situation where someone blew coverage? Might have been against Elizabeth or Union. You and a gentleman
Man,
named Raheem Morris.
Raheem, oh man, did he tell you that story, or you need me to tell you the story?
I don't know. It was summed up. They didn't tell me the story. They just said it
Yeah,
was a situation. Y'all go at it every now and then,
yeah, we
joking the way y'all see
every
each other.
yeah every time that's we went cover three, and I was at safety, Rob was at corner. He got Sean Hart beat him deep third,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And we argued, and he said I ain't give him a ball call, and I'm like, at the end of the day, my man, first of all, I did. And secondly,
Hmm.
you respond. That's your D third. You just got
Yeah.
that good coverage on it. The ball was a little underthrown, and Sean Hart was tough. He wound up playing receiver at Tulane,
Hmm.
but he wasn't that big a guy. But he was small, but he did make that catch. And when he came up and Rock contested it, it was a tough catch, but he scored. They had and he had Sean Hart. I had deep third, and they had Lane Morgan who played tight
Right.
end. Delane played on the Rams with me basketball. So Delane played basketball and football at Elizabeth, but he wound up going to Syracuse and started tight end at Syracuse. So I had Delane running the seam, so I couldn't get over there to help. And they
Hmm.
threw it to Sean because I had Delane covered. So me and Rod recently, when they came and they named Bellsburg Park Field after him, the first thing he said when he saw me was, "Man, you ain't never give me a ball call."
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's crazy just the camaraderie and years later just for sports bring like something like that just to still talk about and probably remember that Thursday that play.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember who I had. And with the foot, like we really studied. So we had a great. I was fortunate enough to have a very good high school football coach in Chet Parlavecchio, and
Yeah.
he was big on film, and I tried to use every advantage I could. And just with the formation, I knew that Delane was running the same route, and I knew they used to. I think Al Hawkins was the quarterback, but he was a young boy then, and he had a strong arm. And he used to like to muscle that thing to him in between the back end and the safety. So I kind of took that away, and when I took that away, he went up top. He went up top. Yeah.
Yeah.
On
I
Rod's
guess.
deep third, not on mine, not in the
Uh,
middle.
and I'm sure it's cool too, just to see where he's at right now too, just
Oh
how he
yeah.
progressed with his life and down there with the
Oh,
Falcons. That's
oh,
good
for
stuff.
sure. Yeah,
No,
man.
that's good
Bro,
stuff. So,
bro, I'm proud of him, and we all are proud of him. And I grew up in my house, so it
mhm.
wasn't that we were just teammates, but we were, our families are very close.
Yeah. And then this hoop thing here, as far as again, I know you say I've been playing since kids, so it was an unsaid thing that this was going to make a run, whether it was the conference and then obviously ultimately the county here. I'm 92, so I must
Okay.
have been at the beginning of that run with
Oh
Don
yeah,
and Kenyon and them.
that was the first year we won it. That was Capers and Moxley. I was a junior on that team. And I
Mhm.
believe we beat Essex Catholic in the final with Yasin and Al
And Al and
Watson.
all of them, yeah.
Yeah, we beat them. And then the following year, my senior year, we beat Clifford Scott in the final
Mhm.
with Demetri Charles and that group. Yep.
How was those
We
runs, man?
actually,
It had to be. Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, we actually beat Scott like twice in 11 days because we wound up playing them in the sectional final as well.
Ooh,
Yep.
okay,
And they were
okay.
good. They were good. And Coach Towns and I are very good friends now.
Hmm.
And we talk about those times. He was like, "Man, we were good, but we could beat everybody, but y'all was just tougher than us. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, yep.
What was it about those basketball teams? I mean, outside of y'all knowing each other from, yay high, but just as far as on the court, what was it about y'all, you think?
I think it was a combination of one, we were just good, like
Hmm.
individuals, and two, I don't know how it happened, but we just had a group of guys who really didn't care about like the individual style. Like we really didn't care. We just wanted to
Hmm.
win. Like, and I don't know, I can't remember like that being a sticking point from from Coach Fincher.
Hmm.
I just think that that was the makeup of a lot of the guys, and like, and if
Hmm.
you didn't fit that makeup, you kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, right? So that was like the environment. That was the type of environment we just wanted to win. We really, sometimes people say that they don't mean it. Like we
Yeah.
really did, we could care less about
Hmm.
who scored what, and like we were just beating people up, man. Like we really didn't have a lot of close games. My I only played varsity 3 years at Overton, and
Hmm.
in my 3 years, I lost 12 games in 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. So we were
Hmm.
my worst, the worst record I ever had as a varsity player was my sophomore year. And we were 19-6. So,
Mm. And it's
and
interesting because
that
you,
don't happen. That don't happen by accident. That don't happen with selfish guys or guys who like, because there was a lot of good teams. We weren't the only team that wasn't going to Catholic school. Nobody went to Catholic school. You know
right,
what I mean?
right.
So the makeup of a lot of guys individually made those runs special. And I think that the initial team, the breakthrough team, like my sophomore year, we were 19-6, and we lost in the quarterfinals to Seton Hall Prep with Ira Bowman,
Ira and Walt and
Ira
all them.
Water,
Yeah.
Wardell Strickland. We lost in the post game to them in
Hmm.
the quarters, but we kind of felt like we had a lot of people coming back, and I was just like, man, we gonna be good for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then also even playing hoops in that conference, you had to deal with the Wallies and you had to deal with
Oh
all
yeah,
them. Yeah,
yeah.
in that
Wally
conference.
Dixon, Tariq Sanders, Akel Taylor.
Hmm.
So Wally and Akel and Tariq, we all played for the Rams.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And back then, we were on the come up, and it was like in Elizabeth and Linden, and those teams were the standard. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And we just felt like back then, Elizabeth had a very competitive summer league basketball league.
But that's where I play at.
It
Okay.
was at the Dun. Yeah, it was at the Dun, and I could
Hmm.
kind of see like my sophomore year rising into my junior. That summer, we started beating people, and I never forget. We played Lawrence Thomas. He was at
I
Elizabeth.
remember.
That group,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
remember.
and we played them in the summer, and they beat us, but it was a close game. But it was like a big turnout. Everybody came, and in the summer sometimes you don't have your whole team. They came with their whole team. We came with our whole team, and
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, they watched because they made sure everybody was there, and it was a game that they really wanted to win. And over time, we just was better than everybody.
Now, for basketball, was Union Catholic in the Watertown
Yeah,
Conference?
Union
Right?
Catholic with D
With
Rock, yeah,
D-Rock, with D-Rock.
D
Yeah.
Rock, and they was in the Watchung Conference. Rawway was in the Watchung Conference. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, even with these runs that started to make, like, how was it for the city? I mean, just around that time,
Oh
it
man,
was.
it was this. We really were like rock stars, like
Yeah,
before social
yeah.
media. Like it would have been worse if we had social media. But
Hmm.
from everybody in the community, the local stores, everybody knew who we was.
Yeah.
Because we had a not only were we good, but I'm looking back as an adult. For the most part, we were all good kids. Like it wasn't
Okay.
knucklehead. Like you know what I mean. So it was easy for people to like us. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Especially if you were from the community, because we were winning, we shined a light on the community, a positive light on the community. So those
Yeah,
were good
because
times. Yep.
definitely I think about too, and you know this, whether it's teammates or just people that just making it into school was a challenge in itself. So just imagine like just that escape playing ball and everything else that it brought to a lot of families and to certain kids as well. So I mean, and you know that as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure, man. That was those were good times, man. And like even like my senior year team, we went in the Hall of Fame a few years ago
Mhm.
to see Coach Finchel and see the most of the team show up. And now when you don't you don't really realize the impact you have or the things that you're doing like when you're in the midst of it. And we were young, so we didn't realize what we were doing. We just wanted to
Yeah.
win some games, you know what I mean? And now when you get older, especially me, being a high school coach in New Jersey for 23 years, I know how hard it is to win the Essex County tournament, right? And to win certain things, and you got to be good and lucky.
Mhm.
You got to avoid injuries. A lot of things you got to avoid, and for us to do that
Mhm.
and have those teams where we will only lose 1 or 2 games a year for a long time, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Now, even outside of the county here, I know there was a big game as far as the win this, I don't know if it was the sectionals or the actual states here where you had to light up some threes to move things along here. You recall
Oh
that?
yeah. That was that was the Scott game, and that was at Union High School. It was the sectional
Okay.
final, and
Okay.
it's like I just said, we beat them twice in like 10 days, and no matter how, it's just hard to continue to beat the same team, and they were good.
Yeah. Hmm.
And we actually stopped them from winning states, and we stopped them from winning the county because we played them in the county chip. And they were just so familiar. We were familiar with each other. They made things tough on us, and yeah, I remember it was not that much time to go in the game, and I hit a few threes within like a minute and a half span to put the game out of reach.
Hmm.
Yep. The last one was Dimitri. Dimitri, I was wild, and he just closed down like he just didn't want me to shoot a pump fake, and he flew by and stepped to the side. Somebody else came and I let it go, and that was the one that really like
Yeah.
put the icing on the cake for the game. Yep.
Mhm. Now, having older sibling and just yourself excelling in all three, what time around in high school you realize like, you know what, I might can help moms out here with college here, like as far as thinking about college for yourselves.
Um, I always felt like I'm gonna play something in college.
Okay.
Um, a lot of people wanted me to continue to play football, but I really didn't have love for football like I had for basketball.
Mm.
And I just had I looking back on it, when you're young, you everybody think they're going to the NBA or the NFL or
Yeah.
you want to, right? So that's everybody's dream. But at the same time, I can remember at a young age, like that stuff not really being important to me. I don't know
Mm.
why. I it just like I wanted it, like and I felt like I was going to one day do that, like that was a dream. But it was another side of me that just wanted to go to school for free. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Yep. And those traits I kind of preach to my sons, right? One has a full basketball scholarship, and my oldest son, who's graduating from college, he went to school with a full football scholarship.
Stuff.
Those things kind of worked out for me. That mentality, I think, like their mentality, let them know the dream, right?
Hmm.
And you want to be the best, but also keep things in perspective, and that what's really important. Was
Hmm.
really important, and they got that at a young age, and I'm happy that they did because a lot of these kids don't get that. They don't get that message.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Now, I know you said they got it. Where'd you get it from if you used to think about look
I
back?
really don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
like a conversation I had with somebody.
Okay.
I I I don't know. It just was. I think it was a mentality I kind of developed on my own,
Hmm.
and maybe that's why I went into coaching at an early age, and I really didn't chase trying to play overseas or anything like that. Um, and it was like my high school coach and my college coach would always say the same things to me about feeling like, man, you know what? One day you're gonna be a coach, or one day you're gonna take my job. And when
Okay.
you're a kid, you think they say that to everybody, but when you're on the other side and you're an adult and you're coaching, you know that they don't. because I see the same thing as some of my former player is the head coach at Irvington now, and I always thought he would be a good coach, and he's
Mm,
been the head coach there. When I left Irvington and became the head coach at Columbia, he became the head coach at Irvington, and I always
okay.
thought he was going to be a good coach. But
Mm,
and I didn't feel the same way about all my players, but I knew that Elias would be a good coach.
yeah, yeah. Now, college-wise, how did you make a decision to end up at Felician?
Um, I went to Rutgers first, and I wasn't playing there.
Okay.
Um, so I was just a student.
Hmm.
And Coach Marrow, who was assistant coach at St. Peter's, the time when I came out of high school, he recruited myself and Suleiman Abdullah, who was the backcourt leader. Suleiman wound up going to St. Peter's.
Hmm.
Coach Marrow leaves St. Peter's and gets the head job at Felician College.
Okay.
And his first call was to Coach Fetchu trying to get me and Suleiman to join. And we wound up transferring to Felician, and we played college ball together. And we've been playing together in the same backcourt since we were in the seventh grade.
Yeah.
Yep.
And did you playing there, how was it? I mean, as far as did it become more mental playing college, or was the
It was
physical
just tougher.
still just as important?
You just got to see that there were people that could do the same thing or better than you that were bigger,
Yeah.
faster, and stronger, right? So
Hmm.
everything was faster. Um, Teams made things tougher on you because scouting
Hmm.
was even more intense. It was just a eye opener about how I mean, it's basketball so competitive, man, and these
Yeah.
kids just walk around here and think in Division One and Division Two, and you're fortunate enough. I don't care what level it is. If somebody wants you to play a sport at a collegiate level, no matter what level it is, it's special, and you should always feel special. Um, one of the things that bothered me as a coach is that some of the adults don't get it,
Mm.
and they put these expectations on kids that they should go Division One or they should get a scholarship. So you might have a kid who just is just not in the cards for him to be a Division One or Division Two player, but he plays Division Three basketball, and here it is. This kid, this should be the best time of his life,
That's right.
but the whole time he's there, he's feeling like a failure because of the expectations that adults put on him, right?
Hmm.
So I always made a conscious effort to wanted my sons to dream and play at the highest level, but always kept things in perspective that if those things didn't happen, you would never feel like a failure.
That's
And
right.
there's too many kids walking around with that pressure. And sometimes the adults never play it anywhere, so they don't even know how hard it is.
Hmm.
They really
Hmm.
don't. You know what I mean? So that those things are discouraging because that's something that's coming from adults, not the kid. Yep.
And I know you mentioned, having a plan, doing something else here. Outside, I know ultimately coaching here. What else did you want to do with your life upon your college career ending?
I always wanted to coach.
Okay.
I always wanted to coach. I actually coached 1 year at Felician when I was done. I was on the staff for half a season there before I came home and started coaching. But I always wanted to coach. I really didn't have the desire to continue to try to play like professionally and things like that. I had a
Mm.
couple opportunities where I could have tried out. I just did. I never went. I
Oh,
started coaching at an early age, and I became the head coach at Irvington, and I was 25. Yep.
oh wow. Mm.
Yep.
Okay. So no summer leagues and none of the pro-ams.
Nah, we had 1 year. 1 year I played at Box Hall had a league, and we had an all Irvington team, and I played up there
Okay.
with me, Ramadan, Suleiman, Muham, and
Okay.
all Kareem Peoples. We just put an all Irvington team in. So we did it that one summer. But when I was playing ball in college, I mainly just worked out. I
Okay.
wasn't into summer league basketball like that.
Hmm. Nah, and even with the coaching, as far as other professions, as far as being in the education system, was that important for you as well to want to pursue?
Oh yeah, yeah. Those things kind of went hand in hand. They would ask me if I was going to be a teacher when I was in middle school or even high school. I would have told you it was crazy, but
Yeah.
as things went along, that's kind of the lane I knew I wanted to go
Hmm. What is it about coaching all these years later? What was it about it that drew you to it?
in. The old school, and I still got joy out of teaching, right?
Mhm.
Like and seeing guys develop and those those times are gone though because everybody getting transfers and years ago
Yeah.
you can watch a kid play freshman, JV, and then varsity, and you watched him develop. Especially when I was the head coach at Irvington, we had a very good run. We beat a lot of people, and I would beat teams, and we would have inject guys, a bunch of good
Hmm.
inject guys, right?
Yeah.
And they got these Division I guys. So just to see guys come together and getting the most out of them, and sometimes when you're a fan, you come to a game and you judge a kid, and you really don't have baseline data. You don't know where he started, so you can't
Hmm.
appreciate where he is now. And as a coach, you get to see that baseline data. You get to see them develop, and so you can appreciate what they are in the moment when
Hmm.
a lot of people don't.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember that day you got the call that you was about to become Irvington's head coach?
Yeah. The crazy thing was when I first started teaching there, Mr. Essen, who was my JV football coach, he
Hmm.
was the JV football coach at Irvington when I played there. So I get there and he says to me, he calls me in the office. The girls program was bad. They had won like 5 games in the last 2 seasons. And he was like, listen, I know you want to be a coach, but can you please help the girls out this year? And I'll get you with the boys the following year. So I started coaching girls basketball first with Coach
Okay.
Castellano. We went 19-6. We made the state tournament for the first time in some years. The 6 losses were to six ranked teams, not different teams, but we lost twice to Matei Ajavan and Sabaz. We lost twice to Monique Blake at Union, and she went on to play at Seton
Mm-hmm.
Hall. And we lost to the girl. Her last name was Bay, and she played for Orange. So we lost to
Okay.
them. Those were our 6 losses. The following year, I became the JV coach for the boys, and then after that, Mr. Essen called me in and said he wanted me to apply for the varsity job because he felt like I would be a head coach sooner or later. He didn't want to lose.
Yeah.
So I became the head coach at 25. Yep.
And that's amazing. I mean, I think aiming to be on the other side spot that you came up in, you grew up in, was it easy to keep kids there with you? I mean, you talk about the pull with these other schools and parochials. Was it being that you was home based there? Was it easier for you?
Yeah, it was easier, and then it was definitely easier because I kind of everybody knew in the community knew who I was, and we got it going pretty quick. Like my second year, we had got it going. So back then, we were losing kids to Bloomfield Tech a
Okay.
lot,
When they
and
had their
then
little run, when they had their little run.
yeah, we were
Okay.
losing kids to Bloomfield Tech, and we turned that around, man. We turned that around. Yeah.
Speaking of which, you got to where you ended up as a player. I know you didn't ultimately win it, but how was it just being back in that county final as a coach? I know
Oh
you.
man,
I know it's a bad
listen.
memory a little bit because of the
Oh,
L, but yeah.
but it just let you. It made me appreciate the times when I was a player and we won it because it's so hard. Like a
Okay.
goal, like I make a goal of all my teams when I was at Irvington and at Columbia. A goal of ours is to make the Final Four of the Essex County tournament.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's a goal, and then whatever happens after that happens. Matchups and different, but let's try to make the Final Four. Let's go.
Hmm.
Let's be one of the last 4 teams. And we did that. We made the Final Four a few times at Irvington. We were lucky enough to make the final where we lost, came up short against Seton Hall Prep. But we made the Final Four a few times at Columbia. My last year at
Hmm.
Columbia, we were the only public school in the Final Four. It was Arts, Seton Hall Prep, and Montclair Immaculate, and Columbia.
Yeah.
and we lost a
Yeah.
close one to Art. So it's
Hmm.
just people don't realize how hard it is. They really don't, especially when you compete against schools who are allowed to get talent from other places, and when you're a public school, you're just not. So
Hmm.
you gotta compete against those schools, and to get there and to be in the same space and be in the. I just wanted the kids to experience the whole county coming to see you play, right? So
How
the
electric it is.
semifinal,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
whole semifinals is at one location. Most basketball junkies who
Hmm.
probably didn't see you during the season because they go on the other game get to see good basketball in one spot and just to see experience that as a player because I know how that made me feel.
Yeah. And even all year round, and again, I know there's other outlets on now, but I'm yo-yoing back to when you played. Just remember the TV3 games. You know,
Oh yeah,
just
oh yeah, TV3. I was the one. I
yeah.
was matter of fact, the three that you was talking about against Scott, that was part of a commercial on TV3 for years.
Oh, that was okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, no, no. Yeah, and
Man.
then even to be at Irvington and ultimately decide to step down. How come?
I wanted to at the time. I live in South Orange, and my oldest
Mhm.
son was a good athlete, and me and my wife didn't know where we were going to send him to high school.
Okay.
So I retired just to be a dad.
Yeah.
Right, I retired. I didn't know where he was going, but I knew I wasn't missing anything.
Mhm.
And I retired, I stepped down, and the first thing the athletic director said, "Bam, what could we do?" I said, "Nothing you can do. I gotta be a dad. I want
Mhm.
to watch his journey. I want to see what happens, right, and be there for him. And the worst thing I feel like I could have done is miss something that he's doing because I'm coaching somebody else's kid. So I didn't want
Mhm.
to do that. So I retired to be a dad. Um, Crazy thing is, my last year at Irvington, like I said, I live in South Orange, Maplewood. I've been here over 20 years now, and Columbia was pretty good that year, right? And after the season, me and my wife we go to Jamaica, and back then you would have internet service in like the 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 reception area, so you had to
Yeah.
go to like. So I woke
Right.
up one morning. I woke up one morning. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go see which one of my kids made all county or area. So I bought some internet minutes, logged on, and a big picture of me pop up saying I would be a good candidate to be the next coach at Columbia. And I'm like, what the hell is
Oh.
going on?
Mm.
So I
Mm.
read the article and they had information about my son and he's a good athlete. No quotes from me, but
Hmm.
I didn't even know the job was open. Right.
Okay.
So I said, man, I get back, my phone is going crazy. I get with Mr. Bushio, who was the athletic director at Columbia at the time. Um, and I'm like, this will make sense. I really wasn't ready to stop coaching, but here it is. My son was a good basketball player as well. So he wound up going to Columbia, playing for me. I got long story
Okay.
short, I applied, I got the job. And from the outside looking in, because stuff lined up like so perfect for me, it felt like
Mm.
if you didn't know any better, you'd think I quit the job to take Columbia to coach my son where that wasn't
Yeah.
even a thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you fast forward now, I retired from coaching because I want to watch my son play in college.
Hmm.
And if I miss a game, it's got to be because I just can't make it. It can't be because I'm in practice with another kid. So I'm a dad first, man, and I
Yeah.
love coaching, but I love my boys even more. So they actually grew up in the gym, and I couldn't not be there for their journey. I had to be there. Just didn't sit well with me or feel right to continue coaching, knowing that they was playing. So
Hmm.
I stepped down at Irvington at the time to decide what I wanted to do with my oldest son, and I stepped down at Columbia because my son's high school career was over, and he was lucky enough to receive a scholarship to continue
Hmm.
playing in college. So
Yeah.
I want to enjoy this time because they go so
You don't,
fast, man.
you don't get it
They go
back. Yeah.
fast.
You don't.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't get it back. Yep.
Now with the Columbia, just the difference, the socioeconomic difference from Irvington to Columbia. Did you see it right away, or was there any? I can't
Yeah.
be.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The mentality is different, right?
Okay.
I really feel like because of the social economic difference, even
Hmm.
though we're 5 minutes away from each other, and I know how I felt when I was coming up in Irvington. I felt like if you lived in South Orange, maybe when you were privileged, right?
Hmm.
So you fast forward, and I really feel like the mentalities are different because kids are victims of circumstances, and because of social economics, some are being raised on survival, and others are being raised on love. And
Hmm.
it's not that the kids who are being raised on survival, guardians and parents don't love them or love them less than anybody else, but because of the circumstances, they're forced to survive first. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And when you're raised like that, you have a different mentality. Sometimes you're a
Hmm.
little hungry about certain things. You got a little more sense of urgency about certain things. So I saw that right away.
Okay.
And that
Yeah.
honestly was probably the toughest thing for me to get used to when I became the coach at Columbia because I'm an Irvington kid. I only coached in Irvington. And a lot of things I thought every kid came with this mentality. And I learned that they didn't. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it has
Hmm.
nothing to do with talent a lot of the time, right? It's just a
Yeah.
toughness. There's a certain toughness that a Irvington kid come with, and any kid will come with if they're coming from the same circumstances that we are raised in Irvington.
Hmm.
And that was the biggest challenge for me to find different ways to press buttons.
Yeah.
And because I knew exactly how to press buttons in Irvington, I knew exactly how to get guys going because I felt like I was coaching myself. Um,
Hmm.
But when I got to Columbia, the mentalities were different. Um, sometimes sports is not, it's just a hobby sometimes
It's
to kids,
something. It's
right?
something to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was the biggest, I remember a few games, man, especially when I first got here, I was just in the middle of the game. I'm like, man, if I had my Irvington kids, I still listen. And it had nothing to do with talent.
Hmm.
It had nothing to do with talent. So that was an adjustment for me. And eventually, because my kids were born and raised in South Orange, maybe were,
Hmm.
right? But luckily for them, they had a sort of toughness because I was always the coach at Irvington. So they grew up in Irvington gym. They was the ball boy for the football and the basketball team because Coach Grant was my tight end in high
Hmm.
school. So we all like family. So they grew up as if they developed a mentality sports wise, that mental toughness and things like that because that's what they were around. You know what I mean? They
Right.
were exposed to that. So they wasn't intimidated easily and things like that. So that was the biggest thing though. That was the hardest thing for me to get used to.
Well, could a plus also be though, being over there, Columbia, better resources for you?
Oh yeah. It's positives and
Yeah.
negatives, everything. Oh man, great
Yeah.
support, great
Hmm.
parental support, man. And
Hmm.
it was is it was hard for me to walk away from because I see
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
coaching at Columbia for a long time, but I knew I had to walk away. I knew
Hmm.
I had to, as tough as it was, and as tough as some of the parents tried to talk me out of it. I knew that I knew I had to. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
But great place, man. Great place. Great place to raise kids, and there's a lot of good athletes at Columbia.
Yeah. I like to ask dads who coach their sons, how did you do it? I know some say, hey, on the court, in the gym, I'm a coach at the crib, I'm dad. But you got mom slash wife here,
Oh yeah.
the work with too. So how do you juggle all of that?
It was, you know what? I made a conscious effort to shut it off when we left the gym
Okay.
because you could drown a kid, man, and make it they may not want to do it no more, right? So
Hmm.
let's say my son had a bad practice, I made sure I didn't get in the car and we talked about it.
Mhm.
And I remember early on, a couple of times I might have said something, and my wife said, put me to the side. I was like, "Yo, you don't have to be Coach Bam all the time,
Yeah,
right?"
yeah.
And it was true.
Hmm.
So I made a conscious effort to not talk about things. I like pick my moments. I know my kids better than anybody. So and sometimes it was the same night. We'll be eating dinner and I'll wait to a vulnerable moment where we might be watching the game. And I'm like, this is my opportunity to say something. But it
Hmm.
wasn't coming from like a coach, man. It was just coming from dad. Like, yeah, we gotta be better when we do X, Y, and Z. And he took the message better because I wasn't Coach Bam at that moment. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So I
yeah.
had to find that balance. But be honest, my son made it easy because
Okay.
he wanted it so bad, and he was such a gym rat that he kind of wanted to be Coach Hard. You know what I mean? Because he wanted to be good. Yeah.
Hmm. Nah, and it's interesting you say that. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I've learned early to just like chill. I mean, she do
Oh yeah, you
competitive
got to.
stuff too. So I learned that
Mm-hmm.
right after that and getting in that car to just cool out. Don't say a word. Wait
Oh yeah,
to your point.
yeah, man. That's
Find the time. Yeah.
because guess what? Those other ones that walk out of that gym, they not getting that.
Hmm.
So they got to be kids first, and I can't preach to them about being well-rounded kids. And here I am being a drill sergeant about basketball and football.
Hmm.
You know, I didn't ever felt that that would be fair to them. So luckily, I found that balance. And you know your kids better than anybody, so you know how to press buttons,
Hmm.
and and you know how to challenge them differently. You know what I mean? And my son was one of my better players as an underclassman. So you know, no matter how fair you are, people want to scrutinize things, but he made it easy. He really made it easy because he luckily he was a good player and he was one of my hardest workers. Yeah.
Yeah. How special was it to be there for his thousand?
Oh, that's big time, man. Those
Yeah.
things they'd be even more special 10 or 15 years later. Right.
Hmm.
Yep.
Hmm.
I get goosebumps thinking about it because I know that was especially for him because I know that was a goal of his. And the challenge with Jay was I didn't want him at 5'11", 6 foot to just be trying to be a bucket because I
Hmm.
preached to him that at your size, nobody's going to give you a scholarship to do that. They're not going to allow you to play that way. So
Hmm.
here's a kid who was just trying to learn how to be a well-rounded point guard and not just a bucket
Hmm.
playing on a public school where he had opportunities to go to different Catholic schools. But my thing was if I can keep us good enough around him where he can continue to get better at playing the right way, he's going to stay
Hmm.
at Columbia, right? Because I just thought his level was his level. Him changing schools wouldn't change his recruitment. You know what I mean? And I just preached to him that making the right play, like when you make the right play, a college coach would come and say, okay, he can run my club because we have a guy that'll finish that. And the
Okay.
casual,
Yeah.
I don't see it, but a coach does. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And he got that early. And luckily, to his credit, he bought into that early. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And to see him score 1,000 points and not be a volume shooter was special for me because he did it the right way. Yep.
Mhm. And then having that 80s, 90s mentality, did you have to curve anything for these group of kids, your last run here, as far as just how you talk to them, what you
Oh
deal with?
yeah.
Because again, yeah, I mean, you did, yeah.
Well, that part is easy because I'm an educator first. So I'm
Hmm.
kind of trained that way anyway. But there was a noticeable difference. These kids are so fragile now, man.
Yeah.
You got bullying this and you know, I've had to adjust because I'm a teacher. So it wasn't a
Okay.
hard adjustment, but I did make a conscious effort. Like some of
Hmm.
my Irvington kids would come to Columbia game and they would hit me the next day like, "Yo, Coach B, you would rip into us if we would did X, Y, and Z." And I would
Hmm.
tell them it's different times, man. It's different times,
Yeah.
and I matured. You know what I mean? And
Correct.
I was less of a yeller or anything like that. I was more definitely was more of a teacher and tried to find teacher moments through adversity and not was a yeller.
Mm-hmm.
The more and more I coached, I used to cringe at some coaches when some of the things I would hear them say in moments when I thought it was the perfect moment to be a teacher moment. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think I just got those things, so a lot of it kind of naturally, maybe because I'm a teacher. I don't know, but I always said I didn't want to be that dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like I could always learn from anybody, and sometimes you learn what not to do, and
That's right.
that was part of part of my me learning and being a life learner and just watching like, oh man, you didn't have to say it like that. You could really, you know what I mean? I felt like sometimes you even feel like stepping in and helping, but I just observed and I was like, I definitely don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that
Mm-hmm.
guy. So, a combination of the times changing and also Coach Bam just getting older and more mature. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you work things now as far as on the back end with your rules and policies as far as with the social media stuff? Did you
What
end up handling it with your players?
just you never can control anything they do on their own time,
Mm-hmm.
but you highlight examples of what not to do sometimes, and just be kind. I used to always tell them like, what you put on the internet lives forever,
Correct.
and it's competitive. You're not just competing with people in Essex County. If you aspire to play a collegiate sport, you're not competing with people in your county, all over the world. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be your own worst enemy where a coach cross you off a list, not because of your ability, but because of something you post.
Yes.
So those things go hand in hand, just like being a student athlete go hand in hand. That social media piece, which was just sprung on all of us, we didn't have that to worry about when we were coming
Mm-hmm.
up, but it's a reality now.
Yeah,
And
no, that digital footprint series. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
reality, and so you just got to be conscious of it. And think before you post anything, man. Think before you post
Mm-hmm.
anything. Yep. Or
Yeah.
reposted something. You know what I mean? Just think. Yep.
Yeah. Sports. What has it given you that sticks with you to this day?
Relationships, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
um, relationships, and I feel like sports can serve as a universal language, no matter what color or background you come from. If you love a sport, you always have that in common, at least that in common with somebody. Um, I grew up in Irvington, so I didn't grow up around a lot of Caucasian people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of my closest friends on my college team was a guy, Chris Tierra, who was a white
Mm-hmm.
player who was from Colonia, he's a principal now at Woodbridge, and we still keep in contact. He's a roommate of mine a lot of times when we were on the road. So and you get to, because of basketball, I got to see and compare different ways we were raised, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a universal language, and I'm fortunate. I really feel like kids who get involved with sports early do better socially. They
Okay.
do better socially. So I value relationships. I'm big on being true to my friends, and it helped me not to be non-judgmental just because you don't
Mm-hmm.
look like me or dress like me or don't listen to the music I listen to. I got to appreciate different music and different food just because I was open minded, and my
That's right.
mom raised me to be that way. And I was exposed to things that I probably wouldn't have been exposed to if I didn't play a sport. So I always
Mm-hmm.
value that. I always value that.
Nah, good. Nah, thanks for you sharing that here. On the
Yep.
back end here, just uh, ask you some random things here. Just put you on the spot a little bit. Have some fun too with it. Is that cool?
Okay. Yeah, that's
Nah,
cool. Let me see if let me see if I'm gonna plead the fifth or if I'm gonna answer. But go ahead.
all good, all good. Hey, I mean, statute of limitations is probably disappeared by now, so we good.
hmm
We good. When obviously being in Jersey, for the Parkway or the Turnpike.
Parkway.
Uh, Bally's or British Walkers?
BK's.
BK's. Oh, you said British Knights. You even went to British Knights. Okay,
No,
okay,
British Walkers. British Walkers. Yeah, not the
okay, okay,
Bally's. Yep. Go ahead.
okay. All right, Sensations or Marlows?
Marlowe's.
I figured. I kind of,
That's the Irvington in me.
yeah, I kind of figured that.
I'm from
But
Crescent
you,
Lane, man. That's right around the corner from Marlowe's.
take you keep it around a little bit here. Dr. J's or Valley Fair?
Ooh, Dr. J's.
Okay, okay, okay. And I
Dr.
heard they.
Listen, coming up, Dr. J's meant you had a little bit of money. You was going to get some good sneakers.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Hey, but don't sleep on Valley Fair. I mean, you slip
Oh yeah,
in.
you got a lot of good deals, man.
And I know after that cross street was that Dairy Queen, the ice cream
Oh
parlor. That's still
yeah,
there?
man. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh no.
it's not there. Okay, 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 okay.
Oh, you know what it is there on that corner on Chancellor. It
Right
might
there,
be a
yeah.
different. It's an ice cream parlor, but it ain't the same name or something like
It's,
that. But it is there. Yeah.
Street Smith or Slam as far as
Street and
magazines.
Smith.
Remember them days?
Street and
There'd be
Smith.
all these names in
Street and
there.
Smith was special. Like we did. It's
Yeah,
like you see names, and it was kind of mystique about players because it wasn't social media. You will
hmm
only see guys on
yeah,
McDonald's game or something like that. And sometimes you'd be like, damn, I know this dude. I played against this dude somewhere. But because, these kids would be best friends and they from totally different states. But
yeah.
they growing up with each other on social media. We didn't have that luxury. So we
hmm
value the magazines and stuff like that.
Most definitely. Felician or Irvington?
Who? Felician or
That
Irvington?
Irvington, correct.
Irvington. Not even
Okay,
not even close.
not even
Not even
close
close,
here.
man. Not even close.
hmm
That's not close.
Best team you've ever been on playing? What on any sport?
My senior year, we went 24-2. And
Basketball team. Okay.
yeah.
Mm. Any sport here. I mean, you don't did thousands probably, but best game you ever played
Mm.
on any level. It sticks
Mm.
out.
It's a lot of it. It's a lot. I will say this: it was a lot of games in that Irvington Pile, and a lot of people can attest to that.
Yeah.
That band was walking out of there with 40s and 50s, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I was young.
hmm
Um, it's so much so that like we had like a junior division, a senior division. Back then, they were post elite scorers, man, and they made me. I was 12, and they was like, "You're not playing junior division this year." Like
hmm
it was. I had a lot of good games in that building. Oh, for sure. Definitely had to be a game. I had a college game where I hit 7 threes
hmm
in the game. 6 or 7 threes. One of them, I think it was 6 or 7. That was a pretty good game. But I had the middle school days, man, when the pal, we would show up to the pal even if you didn't have a game, but you were there to watch. And it was
Yeah.
packed. And it was
Yeah.
my mom and other parents will volunteer. Like back then, we
hmm
didn't really know what was going on, but I look up and I'm like, we don't have those two enough of those type of parents. Like the kitchen was going, they cooked.
Yeah.
It was just like it was like that with the PAL and Irvington Little League for baseball. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I remember the time. I mean, I played for Eastern Slow Lads, so we had to come through
Oh,
there.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yep,
on a couple of occasions.
yep.
Wasn't a friendly environment, so to say the
Nah,
least.
especially if you wasn't from around
These are
there.
the bigger
That I
visitors.
can assure you. If we've had them travel teams and anybody came there, it was tough to get a win in there. We made it tough on
Mhm.
you. Yeah.
Mhm. Coaching or playing?
Say that again.
Coaching or playing?
I guess it's the maturity in me, man. I get joy out of coaching and affecting lives and minds. I got former players who in their late 30s and 40s who we keep in contact, whether it's through social media or phone call every now and then or texting. And I
hmm
value that so much, man. Those things mean so much to me that I don't even think the players know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And definitely coaching. Definitely coaching.
And what you're saying goes along with a saying I heard, some time ago. Engrave your name in the hearts of kids, you'll live forever.
Oh yeah, people sometimes they forget what you say, but people never forget how you made them feel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's true in all relationships. Player to
Hmm.
coach, wife to husband, friend to friend, and some of the things that are shared with me and my former players lets me know that I was more than a coach to them. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I was more than a coach to them, and that means the most to me. Yeah.
Yeah. That matches as a player and a coach here. A game you will want back as a coach.
As a coach, sectional semifinals against Bridgewater, my best team at Irvington. Uh, it was snowstorm, and we got up after you, so our legs were tired, and we literally
Yeah.
led the game the whole way and gave the game away at the end. I want that one back.
Hmm.
I can't even watch that film to this day.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, as a player, I would want the tournament of champions semifinals back against Middle Township. We lost against um, Lamar. It was
There we go. I can't
Lamar
think of
Greer, Stefano
it. Hmm.
Anderson. St.
Hmm.
Anthony's was the 1 seed. Irvington was the 2 seed. We both got the bye. Everybody was looking forward to that matchup, including us, and we really overlooked. And I'm not taking anything away from Lamar Greer, who's the head coach at Middle Township now. He and I talked about that game, and they were
Hmm.
good, and they deserved to be there. But we probably played our worst game of the season, and
Yeah.
it was just a bad time for us to play our worst game. But I want that. I would want that game back as a player.
Now back then was
Because
that
I
playing at
definitely
the
wanted to
Raps?
see that Irvington. Yeah, it was played at the Rap, and I
Okay.
definitely, like everybody else, wanted to see that St. Anthony's Irvington matchup. We matched up so well with each other.
Hmm.
I would love to have played that game. I'll say that, but I
Yeah.
want that Middle Township game back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Irvington here, and I know you probably had stats about this throughout the years here. Your all-time Irvington starting five. It could be
Ooh,
it could be positionless too, if that helps.
positionless. I'll say this: the best person to wear the Irvington uniform in my eyes is the guy Robert George.
Okay.
Robert George. Um, so he's definitely on there. Um, Ramadan Brunson.
Mhm.
Um, I would go King Capers.
Okay.
I would go hmm, Rob, Capers. You have to put Moxley there.
Okay.
And the fifth guy, I'm gonna go Lakeem Lanier,
Okay. Okay. That's solid
lefty.
five.
I
Yeah.
would go with Keeney. Yep.
I want to ask on the football side real quick. How good was Al Singleton?
Very good. He's good for we played back then we
Yeah.
didn't have Pop Warner at Irvington.
Oh,
So we played
okay.
eighth grade football where we played our home games Thursdays at high school. And he and I
Okay.
was the quarterback and outside linebacker, and he was my tight end and the other outside linebacker. And
Hmm.
I'll tell you this, he wasn't the best natural athlete, right? Like it was like guys like myself and Collis and a few others where you could just put us anywhere. And to
Hmm.
see how Alshon Singleton turned himself into the player that he was, it was through hard work. And that guy lived in the weight room, man. And he deserved everything that came his way.
Yeah.
He's just a humble guy, man, and a hard worker. And I was so proud to call him a friend and so happy for him that he lived out his dream and playing in the NFL for 10 years.
Hmm. Hmm. No, no, thanks for sharing that here. Best part about being Ben Robinson.
The best part, hmm, the best part is I'll say I'm lucky enough to have my wife and kids, my family. My mom and my
Yeah.
dad are still living. And as I've gotten older. I always valued it, but it means so much to me now to come home and I have a grandbaby now,
Mhm.
and to see my sons turn into the young men that they're turning into. I value that more than anything, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I probably just took the other part, being C to that, because I was going to ask about that's part about being a father and a husband, but you just said it.
Oh yeah, family. Right? Like
Yeah.
things that you value, man. You to come home and see my grandbaby and see my kids, talk to my
Mhm.
mom and my dad, and that means everything to me. That means everything. It's the
Yeah.
reason why I stopped coaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Book on your life. What would you call it?
Say that again.
Book on your life. What would you call it?
What would I call it?
Yes.
Hmm. A book of my life. What would I call it? That's a tough one. What would be a good title? I feel like I'm a lucky man. So
Okay.
something to be a lucky man, right? Something
Yeah.
down those lines because again, my family's health was intact. I was lucky
Hmm.
enough to have a pretty good playing career,
Hmm.
lucky enough to have a pretty good coaching career, um, lucky enough to be a mentor, so to speak, to some guys who are still coaching now.
Yeah.
Who I don't take that I I value those things because if people can confide certain things in you or ask your opinion or value your opinion, that basically says that they how they feel about you. Because
Hmm.
come on, man, black men, we just don't share things
Yeah.
with people, and we got a lot of pride, and so the relationships that I have with different coaches from different backgrounds, and again that universal language, basketball is all behind it, right? So
Hmm.
I will always value and treasure those
Yeah. Well, what advice would this band give that senior high school band? What advice would you give
things. You probably should have played college football,
them?
like the
Yeah.
whole town wanted me to, but yeah, man. The funny thing is, a lot of my mentality. I think back and I had it early. Like I can't remember someone just sitting me down and prioritizing things for me. It was kind
Hmm.
of like I got it. Like even in the classroom, I was a good student. National Honor Society and all of those things. So, and it wasn't like someone like was hitting home like you need to do. It was just kind of like I saw how I was growing up, and if I ever had kids, I wanted things to be different for them, right? And that was pretty much my motivation since being a teenager. A lot of
Right.
things I'm like, man, if I had a kid, we ain't going through this. You know what I mean? And I put myself in a position where that they didn't have to. I worked hard at being a teacher and being a coach and all of those things where they grew up a lot different than I did, and I treasure that. Man. I definitely
Hmm.
do. Yep.
Yeah. And it's interesting you shared. I know a lot of people I've spoken to, and I'm just going to go around the college recruitment thing here. Like yourself, didn't have nobody probably to help guide you back then, but you
Mm-mm.
going through it made things probably a little easier for your boys.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And talking to coaches that recruit them, they say that to me. They so lucky that they have a guy that gets it because it's a lot of people who are there for their kids for recruitment, but they don't even understand the thing.
Hmm.
So when you don't really understand it, you really can't give sound advice or sound suggestion because you really
Hmm.
don't understand it. You know what I mean? I got a good grasp of things, so I value that, and that's just because of my hard work and people have a respect for me that they respect my opinion and things like that. So those things I'll never take for granted.
Yeah. And you mentioned your mom and dad. What would they say about you?
They would probably say I don't take anything serious. Anybody that
Okay.
know me know I'm the biggest play fan. Right. I find funny in anything, any and everything. But I also know that they will say they're proud of me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That pretty much it. But before I even tie this up, Bam, thank you for doing this. And just to, like I said, you hear things in your travels about individuals or what have you, but just to hear a little bit more about your walk, kid, thank you for even taking time out to
No
share a little
problem,
bit
man. I'm
about this
glad
like that.
we've been trying to do this for a while. I'm finally our times lined up and we got it done. Yep.
Nah, most definitely here, and congrats on the career. Congrats on everything with the family here, and enjoy your time. You're not going to sneak back in, are you, in the coaching ranks once he's done, are you?
Nah, I've got some calls, but man, I don't know, man. I enjoyed this last year, not having that responsibility
Yeah,
so much. It'd have to be an
and
ideal situation.
enjoy it, and like I said, thank you for everything, man. I appreciate this.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Likewise, peace.
All right.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, Ben, for just sharing a little bit of your walk. As always, these are a joy to do, and just to hear family man, educated, et cetera, et cetera. As I stated right from the door here, like great man. Again, Ben, thanks and salute to you. And with that being said, I'm gonna step away. I put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.